There were 1,349 homicides reported in Los Angeles during the year 1988. We are about to hear one of the many cases that added to this grim statistic. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Welcome to another installment of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. In this installment, we will be hearing about the case of Lee Selwyn. This case first aired on the January 11th, 1989 episode of Unsolved Mysteries. The case of Lee Selwyn is a prime example of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Lee Selwyn did not know the identity of his aggressor when he was ruthlessly murdered on that dark night in 1988. When I think of people who were killed due to the actions of their associates, this is the first case that comes to mind. If cooler heads prevailed that evening, Lee would have still been alive. Okay, let's switch over to the case information. So, case information. The person in question, his name was Lee Selwyn. He had no known aliases. He was born on June 24th, 1962. As of the televised airing of this case, he was originally 26 years old. However, his age as of recording this installment of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries, he would have been 62 years old. This incident happened in Los Angeles, California. This case classification, although I erroneously said that it was unexplained death, it was actually wanted. I originally said it was unexplained death, if I remember correctly, in the episode preview that I uploaded recently. When Lee was murdered, he was 26 years old. You can find this case on YouTube it's part of the season 1, episode 13 episode of Unsolved Mysteries. This case was originally aired, or the episode date was January 11th, 1989. And this case, thankfully, has been solved. The killer, his name was, it's going to pull up here, Franklin LeGrand Perkins. He was apprehended, and I think he is serving a life sentence in a Californian prison, if I remember correctly. But after these commercials, we will get to the case
Bookworks of
reading.
Aptos offers a sensible alternative to the hustle and bustle of other bookstores. Browse, sip a cup of coffee, have a bite to eat, and let us do what we do best. Treat our customers to quality service and a comprehensive selection. Whatever you're looking for, Bookworks has you covered. And if you don't see what you want, we special order. So if you want the relaxed atmosphere of an intimate bookshop with big-time service, selection, and convenience, come to Bookworks in the Rancho Del Mar Shopping Center, Aptos.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are new to this series that I like to produce, this is basically where I go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki and I read to you the case that this installment is about. So in this, for this example, it is Lee Selwyn, and let's get to that right now. So depending on how long this case is, this is actually one of the longer cases on this website. I may take a quick break to get something to drink. So let's get started, shall we? This was in the California 1988 murder and other tags here. These are all the tags that they have. Okay, so the case is Lee Selwyn. Real name is Lee Michael Selwyn. No nicknames. The location was Los Angeles, California. The date was October 8th, 1980. I keep wanting to say 2000. Oh, geez. Okay. 26-year-old disc jockey Lee Selwyn was a familiar face in the trendy rock and roll nightclubs that populate Los Angeles. These include Durango, Angel City, and La Hot Club. Now, one thing that I did before I started recording this, I actually looked up each of these 3 clubs, and it's sad to say I couldn't really find anything about them. I could not find anything about them, so sadly these clubs that are here may have actually closed up. He was a close friend of many popular rock stars and musicians. He was also a member of the late night motorcycle riding crowd in Hollywood. On October 8th, 1988, he would fight for his life, a victim of a bizarre encounter with a crazed killer on the streets of Los Angeles. It was a fight for survival that he would not win. Yeah, this I always encourage that you watch the case before you actually come to watch my videos, because me reading it can only get so much across. Uh but yeah, if you watch that case, you will see that he was, at least the Lee Selwyn was a very well liked person. Uh, Granted, what we saw was the actor, but the fact that Lee Selwyn knew musicians and all these other people, it shows that he must have really been a nice liked person. Lee was a man who loved the nightlife of Los Angeles and was an important part of it, but simply because he looked different, he and his friends were arbitrarily targeted for murder. The sad irony of his death is that he was only an innocent bystander. The search for his killer has been taken to the streets of Los Angeles by his family and the rockers and bikers who loved him. Now, this is something I know I'll probably get a little bit of heat from. I don't think that that him being killed, I don't think that was because he was a motorcycle rider. I don't think it was part of it was because he was part of a group that liked to ride motorcycles. What I think it was that his friend, which we'll find out pretty quickly here, his friend instigated that incident with the guy who ended up killing Lee. His friend, he did, which we will find out via the reading. His friend basically broke a mirror of the car that the killer was driving in, and then he broke a window. Do I say that his friend is totally guilty? No. His friend is not totally guilty of Lee's death. The killer is totally guilty. However, Lee's friend should have taken a better position, I guess you could really say, when this incident happened. And it's because of his friend and his hot-headedness, I guess you could say, that led to the death of his friend. Lee had a love for music and begun playing records when he was 15. When he first got his motorcycle, his mother, Linda, I apologize, I'm probably going to butcher her last name, but Linda Carciola, was somewhat nervous about him having it. However, she said she knew he was careful and would not take unnecessary chances, such as riding on freeways, since he was not a crazy kind of person or one to take risks. She really did not worry about him. Shortly before his death, he and several associates made arrangements to rent the Triple X nightclub, fulfilling one of his lifelong goals. Their first show was October 5th, and he, of course, played the DJ. Okay, now Triple X nightclub. Hold on, I'm just kind of curious about this. Maps.google.com. Okay, I'm not, because I looked up a lot of I looked up those three clubs, but I could not really find. I don't think I checked out the Triple X. So Triple X nightclub, Los Angeles County, California. Wait, X? No, what the fuck? Triple X night. Maybe it's two words. Nightclub, Los Angeles, California. Okay, there you go. Well, we got a hold on. Are we in Vine Street? Wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, this has to be California. We got a few spots here, but I don't see anything that's like triple X nightclub though. Yeah, I don't see it. The odds are it looks like that it could have closed down also, which is sad. Which is sad. Okay, I see here. Hold on, let's come on. Come on, hold on, let me get this thing. There we go. At 2 a.m. on October 8th, Lee and three friends left a Hollywood nightclub planning to cruise the nearly deserted streets on their motorcycles. They were unaware of the danger that awaited them. They rode 2 by 2, Lee and a friend named Beachy, trailing Mike Auerbach and Rob Califoot, who rode in front. According to Rob, they were driving down one street when out of nowhere a pickup truck came flying by him. As the truck drove by, he swerved into their lane, nearly hitting Rob. Rob heard him laugh and scream at them. Rob says that things like that happen to motorcyclists in Los Angeles every day, but normally the drivers are not that so blatant about it. I'll be honest, I'm not buying what Rob is saying. Do I think there are shit drivers out there? Yeah. But he literally makes it sound like it's like Mad Max. It's Mad Max. You go out there on a motorcycle and you're putting your life at risk, ladies and gentlemen. You put your life at risk. You get on a motorcycle and everybody's just out to kill you. No, I don't think it was like that. I think that there was a piece of shit, and you should not judge all drivers just because of what one piece of shit does. Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. Let me scroll up. Let's see, blatant about it. Okay, when the truck and the motorcyclist came to a red light at an intersection, Rob pulled up next to the truck's driver's side window. He was infuriated because he believed the driver was trying to kill him. He yelled at the driver, saying, "What are you trying to do? Trying to kill me?" The driver screamed back at him. Rob thought he looked like a nut and suspected that he may have been drunk or on drugs. Okay, let me scroll up. During the confrontation, the driver rolled down his window and spat in Rob's face. In retaliation, Rob punched out the truck's driver's side mirror and kicked the driver's side door. This is why I say that this whole incident started with Rob and his fucking hot-headedness. I'm not saying that Rob literally killed Lee Selwyn, because he didn't. The driver of the vehicle. Oh God, I don't. Here, let me just mark this. Hold on. I'm just gonna mark this so I can scroll up. Oh, it's not here. It's further down. Okay. Franklin. I keep forgetting the guy's name. Franklin LeGrand Perkins is the reason that Lee is dead. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's innocent at all. No, he killed Lee. However, Rob started this whole fucking this downward spiral that happened that night. What he should have done was, you spit on somebody, that's assault and battery. That's assault and battery. What Rob should have been was like, okay, fuck it. There were people, the other writers, Lee and Beachy, were behind the vehicle at the time, if I remember correctly, according to the video. They could have taken the driver's license information. They could have taken the license information. They could have gone to the police. That he had witnesses. That is assault, ladies and gentlemen. Just because somebody spits on you does not give you the right to break somebody's mirror and start kicking in the door. Oh my God. if Rob kicked broke a mirror and kicked the driver's side door, if he did that because he was simply spit on, can you imagine what somebody would do if they said that he had stupid looking hair or some shit, or that he rode that motorcycle like a pussy? He'd probably lose his fucking mind. The driver continued rolling his window up and down, spitting at Rob and growling and screaming at him. The driver then reached down in his truck. Believing that he was reaching for a gun, Rob punched and smashed the driver's side window. The driver then shot out into the intersection, did a U-turn, and faced his truck towards the motorcyclist. Rob and Mike looked at each other and realized that the driver was going to try and run them down. They both then drove past him down the street. The driver made another U-turn and started following them. Lee and Beachy followed as well. As they quickly drove down the street, Rob could see that the driver's headlights bearing down on him. He and Mike decided to make a right turn at the next intersection. The driver slid into the intersection, slammed on his brakes, and stopped. Okay, let me do this. When Lee got to the intersection, he turned left, and the driver followed him. Instead of Rob, Lee became the target of his rage. According to witnesses, Lee and the driver were both going anywhere from 60 to 100 miles per hour. Detective Frank Bishop notes that Lee was known by his friends and family as a very peaceable man who purposely avoided fights, even when confronted. Even if he was physically harmed by someone, he would turn and walk away. He was supposed to be having fun that night. Instead, he was being terrorized by an unknown driver. And like I said, I cannot help but think that this is the result of Rob Caliphate. Basically, he in my opinion, he instigated that encounter. You spit on him, and there is always a better choice. Just because somebody spits on you, maybe you should stop and think there for a second. Maybe you should go to the police instead of breaking a window, kicking a door, or breaking a mirror, kicking a door, and then breaking a window. This, I hope, I sincerely hope that after Lee was sadly murdered, or brutally murdered, however you want to say it, I really hope that Rob, that he sat back, for a few days and realized, oh shit, maybe I had a hand possibly, instigating all this that led to my friend's death. If I did something different, maybe my best friend would still be alive. I hope that he spent at least the last few years contemplating and realizing that there are other choices that he could have made. I would hate to think that he went out, after Lee was killed, that he learned nothing from this encounter. I dread that. I dread that he is still out there, and that if somebody looks at him the wrong way, he's going to start breaking windows again. I hope that he fucking learned his lesson. Detective Bishop believes Lee was in complete terror. The chase went on for 5 miles across 30 city blocks. Holy shit. The entire time, the driver was right on his rear end. According to witnesses, the driver was right on him and tried to bump him several times. The chase continued until the driver hit him and drove him into a telephone pole. Lee flew in the air almost 180 feet before he came to arrest on La Cienega, I can't pronounce that, Boulevard in the Wilshire district. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, but died within hours. Detective Bishop says this was a murder. Someone intentionally took Lee's life that night. And I agree. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident. It was not an accident, so you can't say, oh, it's an accident. No, it wasn't. The guy chased Lee for 30 city blocks. 30 city blocks. The guy was enraged. This was not self-defense. This was not an accident. This was blatant murder. And the sad thing is the person who died had absolutely nothing to do with what ended up with what caused him to be chased. It's like I said in the beginning, Lee was simply the wrong guy at the wrong place at the wrong time. The massive skull fracture Lee received in the collision was the cause of death. That night, Linda received a call from the hospital. She said he was in intensive care. She knew he was going to die, but did not want to believe it. She still has trouble believing it, saying it's real, but it isn't real. God, that for the first couple years after my mom passed away, that's kind of how I felt. Especially that first couple weeks after she died. Oh my God. I would come home after work. I took a week off, when she died. I returned to work, and then like for a couple years, it was a couple years I was still mourning, and I think we can still mourn forever. But I mean, like for the first couple of, especially the first couple of months, I would come home, and I would still expect to see her. And each and every time that I would open up that front door and realize that she's gone, that's when it hit, and that was the hardest. That was the hardest. That was the hardest for me, just to come home, only to realize that she was gone. So when his mom says it's real, but it isn't real, that hits me because I know what she went through. She says he was such a big part of her life, along with being her son. He was also her buddy. At Lee's funeral, hundreds of his friends paid tribute to him. A music video with footage shot at the funeral was also set to original song dedicated to his memory by the rock group Little Caesar. You can actually find that song on YouTube. I will actually post the link to the song in the description. The song is called it's like Riding On. It's actually a really good song. Sadly, I could not find the music video, so all you can hear is the song itself. Okay. Lori says it was amazing to see so many people come to his funeral and show that they really cared for him. She feels it was a real tribute to who he was, by how many people were there and how people have shown how much they care. Lee's friends organized a rock concert in his honor with special guest performances by Billy Idol and Julian Lennon, among others. It was held on November 8th at the Palace in Hollywood. The proceeds from the concert went to a fund offering a reward to anyone who could bring Lee's killer to justice. Detective Bishop says that a lot of people have the opinion that motorcycle riders are gang members. In reality, Lee and his friends were just out having a good time, and they happened to ride Harley Davidson motorcycles. I'm going to go on record and say I don't think that this was an issue of somebody taking issue with the motorcycle riders. I don't even think it was a motorcycle issue. What I think was that, oh God, Franklin, this guy here, Franklin LeGrand Perkins, I think he was just a bad person. He was a bad person, and then you mix in a hot-headed friend, and you get what ended up happening to Lee Selwyn. He says that let's try that again. He says that what really counts is who they were, and what they were doing. Lee and his friends were not doing anything wrong that night. They had a right to be out riding their motorcycles and dressed the way that they were. I'm not saying I'm not saying that they didn't have that right. They weren't doing anything wrong. However, the friend Rob Caliphate, he has to accept. I'm not sure if he ever did, but in my mind, he has to have accept a little bit of responsibility that his actions led to the overall fact that Lee was killed. If things were handled differently, Lee would have still been alive. If cooler heads prevailed that night, if cooler heads prevailed that night, if that Franklin Lee Perkins guy, or Franklin LeGrand Perkins, if he spit on Rob and Rob's just like, hey guys, let's go to the police station, get his license plate, Lee would have still been alive. I 99% guarantee Lee would have still been alive. But no, Lee's friend had to be the big man. He had to show him that you don't spit on him. If you spit on him, he's going to break your mirror. He's going to kick in your car door, and he's going to break your window. A childish mentality like that is what led to Lee's murder. And like I said, I hope over the last 40 plus years, it's been about 40 years if I remember, if my math is correct. 88 to 98, 98 2008. Almost 40 years, roughly, give or take. I hope that over that time, I hope Rob has been able to do some sort of self-reflection and realize that violence isn't always the answer. Lee was not even the one that gave the killer the problem. However, the killer was so bent on catching that person, it did not matter to him who was on the motorcycle. He had to catch up and run them over. Catch it and run them over, sorry. And that is what he did. Since Lee's death, his family and friends have tried to help police find his killer. Beachy helped distribute wanted posters with a composite sketch of the killer. He also called dozens of auto body shops and surveyed dozens of auto parts distributors trying to find buyers of replacement windows for pickup trucks. Linda says it is incomprehensible for her to think that they could never find the killer. She says she cannot imagine living the rest of her life without knowing who killed Lee. Suspects. The killer drove a late model two-tone vehicle with a chrome luggage rack and tinted windows. Most eyewitnesses agree that it was a Ford Bronco 2 or Chevy Blazer, and that its colors were red on white. Damage to the vehicle included a smashed outside rear view mirror, a broken window, and a dented door, all on the driver's side. The vehicle would probably have come into an auto body shop for repair sometime after October 8th, 1988. The killer was described... Hold on, let me just look this up. The killer was described as a Caucasian male between 28 and 32 years of age as of 1988, with green eyes and reddish-brown hair and beard. Extra notes. This case first aired on the January 11, 1989 episode. It was updated on the October 13th, 1993 episode. Some sources spell Perkins' middle name as LeGrant. Results. Solved. More than 4 years went by before police finally got a tip that they had been waiting for. After the case was re-aired on Lifetime on March 15, 1993. Wow, it was on Lifetime in March 19... I didn't realize that it was on Lifetime at that time. I thought it was still on NBC at the time. A viewer called the telecenter and said there was a man in prison in Moultrie, Georgia, who had often bragged about running down and killing a biker in Los Angeles. the viewer had heard from her ex-boyfriend who was in prison with the man. The Los Angeles police obtained a mugshot of the suspect, 36-year-old Franklin LeGrand Perkins. Lee's friends picked him out of a photo lineup. Let me scroll up. Police also discovered that he was a member of the Vargos motorcycle gang. I cannot recall if that was actually mentioned in the case itself. So this looks like maybe I was wrong. Maybe this time around it was, because if he was part of a motorcycle gang, then it could have been like a turf thing in his eyes. I originally thought that this was basically just, possibly like a drunkard drunk behind the wheel, having issues, but it looks like this guy could have been actually in the motorcycle gang. I should go and look it up and rewatch the case, because I just cannot recall them mentioning that. Hold on. On July 30th, 1993, just 5 days before Perkins was scheduled for parole, he was charged with first-degree murder, as he should be. At the time, he was serving a 5-year sentence for possession of a firearm by a felon. 1 week later, he was brought back to Los Angeles by Detective Dan Andrews. Detective Andrews says that most murder victims know their killers, but Lee's case was not that way. It was a random event of a person who was basically minding his own business, and unfortunately, in the wrong place. Was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He says it is a good feeling that they were able to solve Lee's case after 5 years. Linda knows that nothing can bring Lee back. However, she hopes that Perkins' arrest will bring some sort of closure to the 5 years of uncertainty and pain that they have gone through. She feels that justice can finally be served. She is also grateful that Perkins is not out on the street, committing other crimes, hurting other people, and killing other people's loved ones. Lori says that one portion of their grief can finally be closed and dealt with. She knows now that when she's driving on the streets, she will not be looking in other cars and wondering if that person killed her brother. Is her brother's killer. In 1994, Perkins was convicted of second-degree murder. In December, he was given a sentence of 15 years to life in prison. In 2005, he became eligible for parole. He should not be on parole. My thing is, unless you're literally protecting somebody, there's no reason to take a person's life. If you take a person's life, you should not get anything except death, honestly. But if they don't have death, then you should get like a life sentence with no parole. See here. He became eligible for parole, but was denied in 2020. He filed a petition for resentencing. It was also denied. And it should be. He killed someone. You don't kill somebody and then just expect to be able to interact with the general population. No. If this is my country, and I always say that, if this is my country, I have a strong feeling for like eye for an eye. You take a life, you forfeit your life. Like I said, unless if you're protecting someone, you should not be killing people. And I know a lot of people will say, well, eye for an eye, and they'll use, I think it's the Gandhi saying, eye for an eye makes the world go blind. Or whoever fucking said it. Wait, let's see, who did say that? Who said eye for eye makes the world blind? Yeah, Gandhi. Well, I'm sorry to say it, but Gandhi's a fucking pussy. Apparently he wasn't, apparently he didn't have a loved one who got ran over. Because I'm pretty sure that if he lost somebody due to utter violence, I'm not sure if he ever did or not. I don't really research people who are pacifists and stuff. However, I'm pretty sure that if he lost somebody due to utter violence, hopefully he'd have a little bit of a backbone to be upset about it. Okay, so that is that. Let's go down. We got one thing here. We got Lee Selwyn at Find a Grave. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Gandhi. He, like I said, eye for an eye makes the world go. Yeah, well, that's a pussy's mentality. You do what you have to keep your people safe. Okay. Okay, so Lee Michael Selwyn. This is, oh, by the way, this is where I go to the oh, what you call it, the Find a Grave. It's like a repository for people who are curious where people are buried and whatnot. Lee Michael Selwyn, date of birth was June 24th, 1962, in Pittsburgh County, Pennsylvania, or Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Date of death was October 10th, 1988, Los Angeles County, California. He is buried at Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City, Los Angeles County, USA. Plot is Mount of Olives, Block 5, Plot 190, Space 3. And doesn't really. I'm kind of shocked it doesn't have like any family information. It doesn't mention his family, or they normally have like a list of who his parents are and siblings, but they don't have that, which is kind of sad. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, let's look at the photos. Let's look at the photos. Okay. Here we have a photo I just recently uploaded. It's of Lee on his motorcycle. Here's a picture of Lee that was taken from the show. Same picture. And then the tombstone where he now lies at rest. Basically, Lee Michael Selwyn, beloved son and brother, or brother, and friend. Oh, son, brother, and friend. It's kind of hard to read this. You will always be in our hearts. 1962 to 1988. I My mom, when she passed away, her final wish was to be cremated. And I followed her wishes. She was cremated. I'll be honest, I cannot imagine what it would be like having a family member or parent or somebody in, having them be buried. To me, even though it's only been a few years since my mom passed away, I cannot, you know, I do not have it in me to go to the location where I spread her ashes. It's just too painful for me. It's just too painful. I'm not sure exactly if my mom was buried like this, like would I be able to go to her gravesite, on a regular basis, or maybe just after she's been buried and the tombstone was placed in the earth, would that be it for me? Like to me, I cannot imagine that this would be like kind of painful for people. Some people say it's nice, that they would like to have like that place where their loved one is that they could go and visit. But for somebody like me, like my mom, she like how kind of like Lee was for his mom. My mom was like my best friend. I think it would just be too painful. It'd just be kind of too painful for me. But here we have, his final resting place. Okay, so that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. The sad case of Lee Selwyn, a person who was not even meant, who was just an innocent bystander. He was an innocent bystander, and ultimately, the actions of his friend ended up leading to him getting senselessly murdered. When I return, it will be with my final thoughts, so stay tuned and I'll be right back.
Top Shelf presents The Impatient Gourmet.
Show you how to make a good, wholesome meal when you barely have time for a snack. Forget this stuff. Get Top Shelf. 2 minutes in the microwave, you got it made. Bon appetit.
Top Shelf, for people who want to eat right now.
Okay, welcome back. This is part of the show where I give you my final thoughts, and I don't want people thinking I hate his friend. I do not. I hate the choice that he made. I sincerely hope that over the nearly 40 years since Lee was killed, I sincerely hope that Rob Caliphate that he did some sort of deep looking at himself and realized that sometimes violence is not the answer. Yeah, I understand that he was upset. I don't blame him. I'd be upset too if somebody spit on me. I understand that, I would be, pissed off if somebody, spit on me. I don't blame him for that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, cooler heads have to prevail. Which is kind of sad, because when I was younger, I was just like pure emotion. I was a physical child. And I had to grow out of that, and I had to learn that my actions had consequences. Thankfully, I didn't do anything, to the point that I had to go to jail, but I was a physical person when I was a child. And I look back at that point in my life, and I hate myself for it. I hate myself for the way I was. And I just hope that Rob, I hope that he's happy. I sincerely do hope that he's happy. I hope that he's happy and that he was able to find, learn that there is always a different way, that there's always a different outcome to everything. Okay, with that out of the way, basically it is now time to look at the next installment of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. I present to you the case of Michael Rosenblum, and this was a picture of Michael with his father, Maurice. Basically, Michael, he had his demons he was fighting, and he ended up being kicked out of his family house, if I remember correctly, and he ended up disappearing. There are accusations of police interference. The police possibly covered up what actually happened to Michael, and basically what we have is Michael's parents just trying to find out what happened to their loved one. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed this installment of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. I understand that people may not like what I had to have said, especially when it came to the friend. I like I said, I do not hate the guy for existing. I don't hate the guy, period. I just wish that he made better choices. And ultimately, at the end of the day, his choices are what led to the outcome that Lee had. But as always, if you like what you watched and you're watching on YouTube, feel free to click that subscribe button, click the like button, and you'll be alerted when I release more content. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to click that follow button, and you'll be alerted when I release more content there. That is it, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you next time for the next installment of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.
A lot of you insist on eating wheat thins and oat thins because they taste good. But the whole idea behind these crackers is that you can eat them without feeling guilty. That's why they're baked, not fried. I mean, eat them because they're delicious, and you miss the whole point.